Welcome to what I'm calling Idiot's Guide series. So in this video we're going to cover salvaging basics. These guides, as always, are aimed to get you going with a bare minimum so you can get started in what we're trying to show you. So let's start with salvaging types. Now when you are salvaging, there is 3 different types of salvage. There is components, which is literally pulling off shield modules, cooler modules, weapons, etc. There is hull scraping, where you strip off the outer metal of the ship into recycled material composite, which is RMC. And then there's structure. So this is where you actually disintegrate the ship segments into construction materials. So let's talk about the ships we can use. So to start off, there is Salvation starter ship. Now currently you cannot buy that ship in game. You can't even rent it. It's only a starter pack ship. And the ship is very small and it has a limited 6 SU cargo, so it is very much the beginner ship. Now going past that one, your only 2 starter options then are Fortune here. It offers 12 SU of cargo, but that is all external. And with that being external, you need to leave space for your boxes of construction material or RMC to be ejected from the filler storage. But if you want to use that SCU cargo grid or like ship part, you're gonna have to make sure there's enough space for you to be able to eject those boxes. It does have 4 SCU of internal storage cargo, but that's only on the small elevator. But the big upside to the Fortune is it does have 2 of those filler storages. Now the other option as we mentioned was the Vulture, and this again offers 12 SCU cargo, but it has more space within its cargo bay that you can actually store more SCU boxes or for components. It does only have the 1 filler storage, so it's got half of the filler storage compared to the Fortune. And the Vulture also has 2 salvage heads. Now the next salvaging ship you can get is the Reclaimer. The Reclaimer is a multi-person crew salvager that is capital sized, so it is massive. It holds 420 SCU of cargo space. It has drones to help find salvage, it has a massive cargo hold, and so on and so on. It also costs, just a small 32 million in-game currency, so it's not cheap at all. And here's the kicker, is you can't even rent it. So this is where the gap comes in. There is no in-between. There is a moth ship that they have brought in or bringing in. So as it stands, you can't progress very far with the rep of salvage because you hit a wall. And I'm currently at a wall and I've only been playing for, I think we're on to day 16 or 17 at the time of recording, where my Vulture ship can no longer do the next level of contracts. I can't fracture these ships, which means I can't disintegrate. Can still scrape them, so I can still get the RMC, but I can't break them apart, which also then means I can't get some of the components out, because unless it's got a big enough cargo hold or door that I can pull the actual components out of, I can't actually get them out. So I'm at a point now where I have to just keep taking the smaller ships to fulfill the contracts, but this is taking a long time because these next level of contracts want, like 30 or 40 SCUs of the RMU and stuff, which obviously is going to take a long time on a smaller ship. So there is a big gap here. At the very least, let us rent the Reclaimer even. It would be a nightmare to do solo, but it's still possible. But moving on to finding salvage. If you go to Mobilglass with F1, you can go to contracts, and under salvage, you will see, even at the start, there's going to be a contract that has fee next to it. So it's not going to show you how much money you can make. You're going to have to actually pay a fee. And what that does is there are ships give you access to. So once you've paid that, you've got access to that ship. Now these are usually pretty cheap, especially at the start. It's usually maybe 500 UEC or maybe 1,000 for a small ship. But you can also just find derelict ships in the verse as well. So anytime a player claims their ship back or logs out, their ship is usually free to salvage without any crime stat. You can usually identify these as well by one, if say the cargo bay is already open and you walk onto the ship, if it doesn't say private property, that ship's usually free reign. Or if you're in your ship and you're flying up to one, you can scan it and it'll normally say the name of the player if it's in use, or it'll say like game rules or unknown or something like that if it's free reign. Components. So before you get to rip and tearing the ship that you've just come across, we want to try and grab the components. Now you can technically grab the components after you've fractured, but we'll come to that in a bit. It's sometimes hard to find the pieces, so before you start rip and tearing, I always try to grab the components I can first. Now you might not be as much of a loot goblin as me. I will rip every component I can possibly find out, but you don't have to if you don't need it for a contract or you don't need it to upgrade your ship. They're not really worth much to sell separately, so it is really just for upgrading or completing contracts. All you need to do is exit your ship, go out into EVA, fly across, go access the docking collar or cockpit itself, it usually lights up on the ship and shows you some of these entry points. And all you have to do is make your way to the pilot seat of that ship, and once you're sitting in the ship, you just hit right Alt and K as default, and this will open up all ports. Now sometimes they may already be done. Now layouts are going to differ from ship to ship, so you can't really tell you look here, look there, but normally as you look around the ship, you'll see some text on the wall that says cooler or engine or shields or something like that, so it gives you an idea of where to look. And obviously bonus really of doing these missions as a new player is it's a great way to see and get to know different ships in the game. So you learn a lot about where parts are, what their layout is, you know, where their entries and exit points are, etc. by walking around these ships with these missions. So they're a great way to find that. As I mentioned before, you're going to need certain parts. The classes so far I've seen anyway are like military, civilian, competition or stealth, and some of these you're going to need specific ones of certain class to complete, hence the blue goblin for me. I'll just take everything and find out later. So next we're going to get into the salvaging. The way to salvage, and this might not be the most meta way to do it, but what I normally do is I take the components out and then I normally scrape the ship first to gain the RMC. I'll then fracture it and then disintegrate it to gain the construction material. Now there's probably going to be a better way to do this to min-max which materials you get. Again, just keeping it simple as a basic loop for you. So to scrape the ship, when you're in your salvage mode, we're just going to want to select the scraper. Now this is probably going to differ from ship to ship, so the example I'm going to go through is my vulture. So I hit Alt and then D, and I also have, as I mentioned before for the ships, I've also got two different scraper modules. Here on the right hand side you can see I've got the abrade. This one essentially, from what I can see, gives you a bigger area, but it gives you a worse extraction rate of materials. And then there's the cinch, which gives you a smaller area, get more materials for a better extraction. So I tend to use the abrade just because it takes forever and I get fidgety and I need to move on. The fortune only has the cinch, just to keep that in mind. But on the vulture, to change modules, you just right click, and then all you're going to do is then left click to use it. So it'll be the same for a fortune and salvation. As you hit left click and you start to scrape the materials like this, you'll see an orange glow kind of around it. Now while you're starting to scrape, I recommend hitting G on your keyboard, because what this will do is puts it into gimbal mode. This allows your ship to stay in place, but when you move your mouse, it's going to move the actual module itself only, so it makes it a little bit easier to get into all the little areas of the ship to get as much of the material as you can. For those who have ever played the game, scraping is pretty much just becomes the power wash simulator. It can be quite therapeutic. Now when you're happy with all the scraping, you're going to hit Alt and W. Now this is going to activate the fracture mode. So you left click to fracture the ship, and you're going to start to see a small progression circle in the middle, and you'll see that here. It's going to start to load little segments around that circle for your completion kind of rate. And once that's done, it's going to just do a big like explosion animation, and then your parts are going to start to push away as they go through space. This is why we were suggesting doing the components before, because it could be hard to find all the part. Now what you're going to do is after you fractured it is you're going to right click, and it's going to show you in disintegrate mode like this, and the same as fracture, you're just going to left click to activate. Again, like fracturing, you'll see that little circle in the middle with your progression going around. If your storage fills up, you're going to have to go and inject that cargo. So you're going to find a control panel on a ship that's going to look something like this. This is the vulture one, and you can at the top see how much storage you've got left, and near the middle there you're going to see the different types of materials you've got. On this little screen you need to hold down F and then just use your mouse to go to eject, and that'll eject one SCU box. So you might need to do it multiple times if you want to free up a bit more space, but that's how it works there. Now in terms of contracts, since you have scraped, taken components, got construction materials from the ship, you can hit F1 on the Moby glass, go to contracts, and you can fulfill some of the contracts you've got. Now again, to begin with, it's going to just be wanting those materials and only a couple of them, but as you progress, it's going to want certain components and it's going to want a lot more of those materials. So you're going to probably have to do quite a bit of salvaging to complete a contract. I tend to salvage a bunch of ships, depot the stuff, go back out again, salvage more, depot, salvage, depot. And again, the reason being, as we just said, is as you progress to rep, you're going to start needing certain components, you're going to start needing a large amount of the recycled materials or the construction materials, etc. So as you keep depoting, you're going to end up building that surplus to be able to fulfill those contracts with. That is it. The loop as basic as I can think of. It'll certainly get you started. There's going to be a lot more technical stuff, I think, with salvaging that you're going to have a lot more experienced people are going to be able to help out with. So again, if you are experienced and you've got some great ideas, or you know where to find competition stuff personally for me, or any other tips and tricks you want to leave a comment for, that would be much appreciated, so we can all share best practices and help each other out. Don't forget to check out our other videos in the channel and come join us live. You'll see links in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the verse soon.